What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James MENNIE. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, congratulations. I don't know if you heard on the news, but Jason said there are now more billionaires in the world than ever before.
Oh, wow. I was so worried there for a second. Hey, listen, I know it's not on the list, but I got to get this off my chest. I just heard you talking to Lori about the Snowmageddon, which is, of course, not going to happen. But anyway, listen, here's the thing. Just for fun, for beginning Wednesday night and all day Thursday, somebody should go out and check and see how many people are out on their Bixies during the snowstorm. Because if the numbers went up in the winter for the Bixie season, it's because there was no winter.
Yeah.
Okay? There was very little snowstorm, and the temperatures are very, very mild. But I just wanted to say that.
No, it's funny you say that. I was thinking, we talked about that before, but I'm guessing when you say the numbers went up, if there were 4 people last year and there's 7 this year, that's quite the increase.
They claimed 50,000.
Oh, yeah.
I
must be the same one guy who reports everybody for the OQLF. I'm thinking it's him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on here and talk about the story on the federal budget. I brought this up yesterday because I heard someone talking about this and thinking to myself, bit of a different approach, right? Usually when you come to a budget, you're not finding out a whole lot up until budget day, and then everything kind of hits you at once. This has been exactly the opposite with this federal budget that's going to be released. I believe it's April 16th, right? And we're getting dribs and drabs, and it seems every day there's yet another announcement from the federal government. Yesterday was the school food program. Today it's housing and money being made available to get that going quicker. This is a whole different playbook, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but the thing is that there was a reason for lockups. There was a reason for budgetary embargoes, which was you were keeping your mouth shut in order not to allow certain members of the public, or indeed, I don't know, perhaps even within government, to profit from whatever the government policy would be. If the government is about to announce, as it did, a major infrastructure program, I might want to, and I might have an idea where that infrastructure program might be deployed.
Sure.
Well, I might want to, how can I, get in on the ground floor with any infrastructure companies that might benefit from that government business. And that was the rationale between keeping your mouth shut up until the lockout had been lifted. But this is it, and I remember it. You remember it. I'm sure most of our listeners remember it. And what's crazy is this federal budget has quite literally been turned into an election campaign brochure. This is Justin Trudeau showcasing what his party platform is going to be: $1 billion for school lunches, which in and of itself is an apparent intrusion into provincial jurisdiction. Once again, as much as $6 billion for infrastructure and housing construction. Although once again, we're sloshing around in provincial jurisdiction. It sounds like nothing but a mess. But on the other hand, they're all the right, and this is the one. I think this is the one talent Justin Trudeau has left, is to find out what the most virtuous thing is this week and focus on that laser sharp. So, of course, there is a housing crisis. Of course, people are facing economic challenges. Families are facing economic challenges. And anyone who's ever even in Montreal, it's not news that lots of kids, even before, when we weren't talking about the recession, a lot of kids took advantage of school breakfast programs and school lunch programs. And they got government, usually at the provincial level, but it was always an issue. There are always people who are struggling, and my hat's off to whatever program helps out kids get a decent meal at school. But man, oh man, you kind of wonder the extent of this. I'm sorry, maybe it's some might perceive it as a very deep, political stratagem. I just get a whiff of desperation off of all of this, Aaron. I just get the impression that they know the entire boat is sinking. They're listing very, very badly. People are falling off the deck, and they've got nothing left. So you know what? I got a few $billion to throw around in this budget. I'm going to throw that. I'm going to change the channel. I'm going to have my name, my party's name associated with funding things that people like, things that are good for Canada and good for Canadians. And if I can sort of, as an addendum to that, make the provinces look like a bunch of villains, but frankly, as I say, I don't think it's a very smart way to govern. And it also leaves a lot of people rolling their eyes, because in the end, if we're talking about, like this week, infrastructure, school lunches, just doesn't get off the ground, your average person is not going to care who's to blame. They just know it didn't get off the ground. And there's another reason not to trust government.
You know, it's interesting. When I asked Jean-Francois Lisée about this yesterday, about the school food program, right? And his first reaction was not about the program, but about the fact that, wow, another $1 billion. Where are they getting all this money from? Right? It's just a billion here, a billion there. At the end of the day, we're going to see a very big deficit come that budget.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be huge. And you know, I hate to say it. I mean, I have made this remark when we've had situations where, you know, inflation has been catching up. In a lot of cases, people out there were spending money they don't have.
Right.
But apparently the government has picked up on that, figured most of all, people now when they hear deficit, I think it's just white noise to them. So they're not going to worry too much about it. I know there's a big story about it in the press today. It's terrible. And, you know, it will cost us money just to service the debt. But in the short term, people won't care. Or at least we hope they won't care. But once again, if there's nothing at the end of it, and I think the only thing you're going to see with these two announcements, Aaron, is more squabbling between Ottawa and certainly Quebec. I kind of really despair for the next 2 years, man, because we've got, you know, a federal election coming down the pike, and we've got a provincial one in 2 years. The next, you know, 12 to 18 months are just going to be absolute hell for anybody living in Quebec.
Well, there's something to look forward to. Okay. Yeah. And Jim, let me touch on this before we run out of time. I like this line. You wrote PQ leader, so we're talking Paul St. Pierre Plamondon, has been dealt a pretty good hand, which I think we can all say, yeah, one thing after another, even stuff he doesn't necessarily do, and something that CAC does by mistake comes back to make him even more popular, and the polls show it. You wrote, did he just overplay it? What's this about?
Well, it's kind of funny because, you know, sometimes I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but I guess you could apply it to broadcasting too. In journalism, you know, you're writing a news story, and you figure you're going to throw a little extra line in there that's going to make you seem clever or funny or whatever. And the thing doesn't work. It comes back and it bites you in the backside big time. Okay, and it's always the thing you don't think about. Well, what he's done is this entire debacle with the T-shirts, the hockey T-shirts, okay, that have the word trophy. Okay, because frankly, everything else is a proper noun. It's the offending word there is trophy, right? And I guess playoffs as well. He decided, you know, everyone was okay, you know, freaking out, it's terrible, blah, blah. He turns around and with a straight face says, you know, I really think we should have a legislative committee hearing on this. Wow. T-shirts with English on them. A legislative committee. You know what that involves, right? That involves convening members of all the parties, taking up time in the National Assembly to discuss the issue, having two English words on freaking T-shirts being worn by kids playing hockey.
You're serious, right? I mean,
I'm not making this up. I didn't dream
That's
this.
crazy.
I just thought, I mentioned it. I couldn't believe it. I did a double take when I saw it. When I saw the report, they says, yeah, you know, we may have to convene that because, you know, obviously, come on, man. I mean, get real. I thought he was smarter than that. I really did.
So, as you say that, I thought the exact same thing, right? And I was going to use that term. I thought he was smarter than that. We've been talking about how embarrassing this is going to be, but apparently, as you're suggesting, he wants to double down on this.
Well, it would seem that maybe he is making the same mistake as Francois Legault, which is really overestimating the amount of angst and anger and concern there is a general concern within Quebec among francophones to protect the French language and Quebec culture. That said, nobody's losing sleep over hockey T-shirts. Okay, this is just a quick and dirty. Presumably, it was to get maybe score some points. But man, oh man, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I completely misread the Quebec public. But when this story first broke, and you would see the reaction of people online or whatever, and you know francophones as well, it's like really. And even when the Journal de Montreal has got a headline saying the language costs are coming to your kid's locker room.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because typically when we look at this, it's under sort of, you know, the magnifying glass of Anglo media, or Allophone, if you will.
Exactly. You know, by all means, go roast an Italian restaurant. Go roast an English bookstore, okay? But what, you're going to come after my kid's hockey team? Come on, get a life.
What's reaction been on the Franco side to this story? It's been a couple of days.
I haven't seen a word yet. I think maybe a lot of people just didn't see it. It wasn't a very big story. It didn't have a big headline on it. But when I just took a look at it this morning, and I went, "You've got to be kidding me!"
Wow. All right. Well, it'll be interesting to see how Paul St. Pierre Plamondon reacts. Of course, we have to see if French media picks up the story for him to react. So we'll wait and see on that. Jim,
well, maybe he's already gotten some reaction and he's decided never
not to say anything. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Let's hope. Knock on wood. All right, James. Thank you.
Matt.